Hello, everybody. Josh Neighbors here at Locked On Big 12 podcast. This is the second part of our normal weekly crossover, the roundtable that we do every single week. Jake Hatch, Linda Godfrey, and then also John Williams this week. No Steven Simcox. First part, we talked about Mark Emmert. Second part, we're talking about Blake Shapen, who is now who is about to be named the quarterback at Baylor for this season. And we break that down, give our thoughts on that and kind of what it means moving forward for Baylor. And then also we discuss a little bit of spring football and the NFL draft coming up as well. Hope you guys enjoy. It'll jump right in to part two right after this.
You are Locked On Big 12. Your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so let's get to our next topic, okay, on the evening. We got some news coming down today from Sikkim 365. They said that multiple sources, are telling them that Blake Shapen is expected to be named the quarterback at Baylor University for the 2022 season. Now, this is coming off the heels of something that you all were not involved in, so don't worry here. Last week, we did the quarterback power rankings in spring, myself, Emery Lida, and Drake Toll. And it was a voting system. So once again, it's my show. I should take ownership for it. But our rankings
Come on, Mark Emmert.
we had Gerry Bohanon at number 2. And I said, gentlemen, I'm not sure this man wins his own quarterback job. Well, it sounds like he's not going to. And I want to put this out there. Let's see, our guy Parker from Statso War on Twitter said this. He said, despite Baylor fans' commitment to pretending a great athlete was a great QB, the rest of the Big 12 should be very unhappy about Aranda's QB decision. You go on to say, Baylor ranked 41st in EPA/pass, so it's expected points added in the pass game in 2021. Now, 41, you might say, it's pretty decent. Their passing offense was the worst unit that Baylor had last season. Blake Shapen, last seen not doing very well in the second half of the game against Oklahoma State. Blake Shapen also, friends, holds the record for a Big 12 championship game for consecutive passes completed at 17. So, John, we're going to go around and basically ask everybody the same question. As somebody who's going to be covers a team that's going to be an opponent of Baylor, are you happy, saddened, indifferent about this decision? What do you think?
I'm going to take a we'll see approach, because one of the great things you had about Gerry Bohanon was you knew he wasn't going to turn the football over. He was going to play a style of quarterback that was going to keep Baylor efficient enough in the passing game while using his legs as a runner to keep the chains moving. Now, they lost Abram Smith. They lost Tristan Ebner out of that backfield. And to me, that's still one of the big question marks is that running back for Baylor. Blake Shapen looked really, really good in that first half against Oklahoma State. I mean, he also got the benefit of 4 Spencer Sanders turnovers in the first half of that Big 12 championship game. Sorry, Linda. Those are just the facts. But can he have that same level of efficiency, that same level of effectiveness throughout a complete Big 12 season? I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback for Baylor and in the Big 12. So to me, but it's a wait and see kind of approach. I want to see what he looks like against BYU early on in the season. I think that's going to be a huge test for him. If he can pass that test, then yeah, I'll start to get a little bit nervous about that, home date that Oklahoma has against Baylor. But until I see him a little bit more,
right.
I kind of want to take a wait and see approach. My only hope is that Gerry Bohanon heard it from Dave Aranda first and not through Twitter. Cause man, I don't know. The breaking news thing, I get it. It's part of the media, but I feel bad for these kids, man, when they're hearing that they lost the starting quarterback job through Twitter. That's I don't know, just kind of hard.
Well, it's tough because they're not making any announcement here either. So there's a chance that maybe he didn't hear. And look, that's not necessarily on Dave Aranda. It's just that word gets out and stuff like this happens. And by all accounts, everybody says Gerry Bohanon is like an awesome dude and a really great leader and all of these things. Linda, I want to ask you this question, though. Here's how I see it. They're losing guys like Jalen Petrie and Terrell Bernard off their defense. On their offense, they're going to lose guys like Tyquan Thornton. They're going to lose Abram Smith and Treston Ebner. So to me, the one thing that we know that has to improve is their offense. And this guy, Blake Shapen, in my opinion, gives their offense the best chance to get better. Not just beyond, Gary's got time left too, but not just beyond, this season, but and beyond too. And so I think this is about putting a guy in a situation where this thing needs to elevate because their defense probably won't be as good. And they have a guy who's probably got a higher ceiling than the guy they had last year, who was a good game manager, but that's kind of what they needed last year with the great running back and a great defense.
Yeah, I was pretty pro Gerry Bohanon, to be honest. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I don't think it ultimately matters because they have Jeff Grimes calling the offensive plays, and that's like who you want doing it. Mm-hmm. What I will say is, though, you're right about the defense maybe not being as good next season. That like historically offenses pass more when they're down in games. So if they're worried they're going to be down, then the passing game needs to step up. And they're losing two of their two starting running backs, also meaning that they may have to pass a little bit more. So I get it. It's still very early before the season starts. So that feels a little like it feels like this maybe should have waited to make that call. But I guess they've made their decision and they want to make sure he's getting all the first team reps. So it shocked me. I didn't know till I had signed on, and then you guys were like, "We got to talk about the Shapen news."
So, Linda, to be fair, this is out from Sikkim 365. They do a better job than anybody covering Baylor. They have put their entire staff's name. I mean, it says this article is by the Sikkim 365 staff. So when you do that, like you are putting all of your names on this work, and what you are saying is. Has learned through multiple sources that sophomore Blake Shapen is expected to be named Baylor starting quarterback. The news began its service on Tuesday evening after a round of meetings with each of Baylor's quarterbacks. Now, so that's where we're at. Linda, do you have anything else? I just want to make sure that we're not. Okay, Jake, I want to ask you this because I think this is where Dave Aranda. Because I'm reading that again, and I feel like this means Gerry Bohanon probably knows, right? If we're talking about a round of meetings with the players, we think he knows. So let's just all operate under that assumption.
Okay.
I like the fact that while all these coaches out there are trying to play coy, and Hudson Card's going to battle with Quinn Ewers,
it's dumb. That
Dave Aranda has said, "This is our guy."
Sure.
We've had spring, Gary. Blake's our guy. Blake, you are our guy heading into the 2022 summer. We're heading to summer now, summer workouts, all of those things. Take that as you will. That's how this thing is going to shake out. And I think there is something to the amount of honesty. I think the team is going to benefit from this. I think Gerry Bohanon's going to benefit from this. I think Blake Shapen benefits from this. We all know where we stand. We all know who we have to rally around. And I'm totally cool with that, as opposed to we're not sure. We got ourselves a 12-way battle here because I want to keep all 12. We got a kid, the guy used to scoop ice cream in section 140 last year. He's made some good throws this year as a walk-on. I think we might, he might have a chance. Like, how do you feel about the honesty is the best policy so we know who we're behind here?
I really like it. And that's the thing. I think that it's the right policy to have if you feel like you have a clearly better guy. Let's just put it that way. If it were truly a neck and neck battle, I'm totally okay with the coaches saying, you know what, both of them are still battling. But if Blake Shapen is the guy, just make the announcement now and you let the bygones be bygones. If Gerry Bohanon is going to say, you know what, I'm out, then you say, okay, so be it. but I am actually in favor of this. And it's something I think that BYU's offensive coordinator, Aaron Roderick, it's kind of the same philosophy he has used during his time at BYU since taking over for Jeff Grimes. He's been very straight up about telling you where each quarterback lands with the BYU quarterback battles that we've covered over the past few years. And he's been very, very straightforward about that. So I like that part of it. The one thing I will say about this is BYU got absolutely punked by Baylor last year, and they want nothing more than to get revenge in that home opener when Baylor comes to Provo in the second week of the season. And the thing is, Tristan Ebner and the running game for Baylor absolutely killed BYU last year. The Cougars are not sad to see him off to the NFL. They want to see Baylor maybe throw it a little bit more. It might give BYU a better chance at winning that game.
Yeah, I think you're totally right, because I'm actually just like so interested by that game next year, because Baylor's gonna be completely different. It's gonna be a completely different team. A guy that I work with, Gabe Eichert, played center at Oklahoma. A lot of accolades, really great player. Always made the point to us. Has made this point a lot that like it's so important that everybody knows who the guy is playing quarterback, because it is the most important position in all of sports. Is what most of those people, most football players believe. It's so important. Everybody knows who that is. And I think Dave Aranda and Jeff Grimes like understand this year is going to be more challenging for them on offense. And so it's important that we don't do this waiting game. I mean, this was, correct me if I'm wrong here, guys. Like, this was the quarterback battle of the conference. This was the best quarterback battle. These are two guys that could start at multiple Power 5 schools, right? I mean, and this is we're hearing it. We think when you were going to start week 1. I'm not sure when we're going to hear about that, but we're hearing now about the biggest quarterback battle. Baylor knows who to rally behind. There'll be no mistakes here. It is April 26th. Their opening game, I'm sure, is sometime between September 1st and 7th, whenever it is. They have the next 3 months knowing 3 months plus, knowing who their guy is. That is invaluable. And I will say this, I'm not sure about BYU's situation, but Oklahoma's like that. Oklahoma State's like that. And Jake, is BYU like that? They are, right? With Jaron Hall? With
Jaron Hall. Yeah, Jaron Hall. He's the
There's
guy.
a benefit. There's a benefit, right? I mean, I think we can all agree, like everybody here on this video is pleased that they know who the quarterback is heading into 2022. I mean, I don't think there's any doubts about that. So, John,
I think it does another thing too. It gives Gerry Bohanon time. Like if he does want to find a new spot and go transfer, he's got time to go look at his options, figure out where he wants to play, and then he's got 4 months to get acclimated to his new program. And you mentioned what it does also for the team is that it gives everybody else time to get acclimated to the fact that Blake Shapen is the quarterback. So I like the approach. I liked the approach by Brent Venables and Jeff Lebby with Dylan Gabriel. They removed any facade that there was going to be a quarterback competition at Oklahoma. They just came right out and said Dylan Gabriel's the starter. I think it's important, like you mentioned, but I do like, it's kind of a bit of a hat tip to Gerry Bohanon. You want to stay, great. We'd love to keep you. If you want to go explore options, you got plenty of time to do that. You wait until August, the last week of August to make your quarterback decision. The kid's got no options. He's got to stay at Baylor or enter the transfer portal and just kind of sit out the season. It's kind of a cool little, hat tip to Gerry Bohanon. Hey, we respect you. If this is now this is me making an assumption of what Dave Aranda would say to him. If you want to go explore, now's your time to go do that.
Yeah, because he's got to do it. He's got to do it. He's got to get a move on. If he's
May 1st, right? May 1st.
It's got to be done by this Sunday.
And I think it's really because they just had their spring game, and so it's like, look, I know it's a shorter period of time, but it's 5 days. And look, that guy gave them a Big 12 championship, right? I mean, I know he wasn't playing when it happened, but like he
got him there.
He got them there, and he was. He was the leader of making that happen. And like, that's a huge accomplishment. And I think there will be a lot. Excuse me. I work, working at XM on the Pac-12 channel, and I've been working on the Big 10 channel. And we're talking about some of these schools. Like there are a whole heck of a lot of Power 5 schools that would love to have a Gerry Bohanon. I mean, the Illinois, the Rutgers, of the world. Those teams would love to have a guy like that. The Cals, they might not say this otherwise, but like the Cals of the world, the Colorados of the world, a lot of these schools would love to have a guy like that there for them. And I'm excited for him that and look, he might stay. He might be the guy who says, no, I'm going to stay here. This is where I'd like to be. But, it's probably really heartbreaking for him. I mean, I think you have to feel bad for the kids. Like, after what he accomplished last year, just this is major life's not fair. Like, major life's not fair. But I'm glad we're hearing this now, because now Gary's got the opportunity to go somewhere else if he would like to. All right. Last thing here, folks. You guys can go any direction that you would like. So if you guys want to take NFL draft, you guys want to take spring ball, you guys can go any direction here. Something that it's still on your mind from last week, something that is on your mind the upcoming week. So John, I'll go to you first. I think I know what's on your mind. What do you got for us?
Well, I'm just going to share. So I took my family to the spring game on Saturday, and it was my first experience in Oklahoma, or Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. And we just had a really good time. And I don't recommend taking a toddler, but we wouldn't do it any differently. My daughter just absolutely loved just watching the cheerleaders. When the ponies ran onto the field with the schooner, her eyes just lit up, her jaw dropped. She was just amazed by it. And we were way, way up in the upper deck. And it was just a cool atmosphere for a spring game. It was really neat to see just so many people show up and show out. On the football side of things, the player that I was really excited to see on the field was Theo Weiss. Sat out most of 2021 with a leg injury after tying for the team lead in receptions in 2020. And they're going to need him to be a big player. Had one catch for 48 yards early in the game that set up a touchdown for his squad. So really, a really good day for him, and it was really good to see him back on the field.
Awesome. Yeah, it was awesome to see that crowd, man. Brent Venables, he challenged everybody, and they got out there and did that. Okay, Linda, I think I know what direction you're going to go in. This must be one of your favorite weeks of the year, because the NFL draft will impact the 117 fantasy drafts that you are going to be doing this offseason.
I'm not that many. I'm not that many. And I'm not
including best ball.
No. What about weekly?
You're not going to get away with only me talking about the NFL draft. You could go ahead and put it on next week's docket, because we are doing a segment of NFL. I want to talk about, I went to the spring game in Stillwater. It wasn't a game because our offensive line is injured and we didn't have enough depth to run a full scrimmage, which has been a fear heading into at the end of last season. I was already worried about the offensive line. And then Mike Gundy was like, yeah, we can't even scrimmage. I was like, okay, sweet. But we did get to see some quarterback play. Backup quarterback is still a huge question mark after Shane Illingworth entered the transfer portal. I was a very big Shane Illingworth fan. I think we talked about that one of the first times that we ever got together and did this. But Garrett Rangel got the QB2 reps. So I'm hoping that means, signs are pointing to him being the backup quarterback. Gunnar Gundy, who is Mike Gundy's son, God love him. The throwing motion is not pretty, and he's not very big. And
is he a walk? I think he's a walk-on though, right?
Yeah. But right now it kind of seems like it's between the two of them for the backup position. And I'm just hoping that seeing Rangel take those QB2 reps is the indication that I needed that he was going to be the backup quarterback.
They got somebody pretty good in the recruiting. He's a kid, right? In the recruiting class, they got who's pretty good. Was he the 4-star
last year? Yeah,
whatever it was. Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is you better pray that they keep Spencer Sanders upright this year, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, and he hasn't played a full season yet, so it's a valid concern and a very important position for the Cowboys.
Not shocking that the spring was so grueling that it made the offensive line hurt. Mike Gundy's practices are not known to be the easiest in the world. All right, Jake, what is on your mind, sir, as we conclude today's show?
Well, BYU's spring ball is pretty far in the rearview mirror, so I wanted to go on the NFL draft this week, and I wanted to highlight Tyler Algier. He's the most likely of all the BYU candidates this year to get drafted. I'm expecting to hear his name called somewhere in the late part of round 3, but more likely round 4, round 5 in the draft. But his story He's a walk-on from Fontana, California, came to BYU, started as a running back, realized, hey, if I want to get on the field early on in my career, I got to switch over to linebacker. He plays linebacker, actually leads BYU in tackles against Boise State one year. The very next year, he switches back over to running back and leads BYU in rushing that very next year against Boise State. This is a kid who is just an incredible success story. Bet on himself, bet on coming to BYU. He's not a member of the LDS Faith, which runs BYU, and just he's been an absolute sensation. He set the single season rushing record this past year for the Cougars. It's a really cool story, and I'm super excited to see him in the NFL. I'm wearing my Niners hat tonight. I have I'd like to see him with the 49ers. It probably won't happen because they already have their running backs, it feels like, but I just hope that kid makes good on the bet he made on himself at the college level, because I can tell any NFL team, if they were to ask me what they're getting in this kid, he's a football player. Special teams, linebacker, running back, you can put him wherever you want on the field. He will do his best to succeed. He did it at BYU, and I'm expecting the same in the NFL.
I would just like to say this is an awesome running back class, I think this can be a really strong running back class. Brees leads the way, so I guess we're partial to that. But
yes,
Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Spiller, James Cook, Kyron Williams, Tyler Algier, Damian Pierce, Zamir White. I mean, Jerome Ford, Abram Smith, Tyler Beatty, like my Missouri Tyler. Like that dude was a horse this year, and he's not a 5'8", and he had to get 200 some carries this season. It's like, so I'm pumped for this. I'm very pumped, and we'll have all kinds of coverage about how things went for the Big 12 next week. That'll be the focus of our show, just kind of the Big 12's draft, because it might not be a good one. Hopefully it is down the line, but we'll see. All right, everybody, who's going to be
the player they sleep on this year? That's going to be the question, because they
Big 12 player?
They keep sleeping on Big 12 players, and then
Jalen Petrie.
It's Malcolm Rodriguez.
I don't know what we're doing with the Jalen Petrie thing makes no sense.
Yeah, that makes no
sense. He's a first round pick.
Yeah. It's like stupidity that they value. I
don't know what we're doing.
Where they value safety. It's ridiculous.
Somebody's gonna take Desmond Ridder like 31st. Yeah. And I'll be like, we're like, why'd you do that? And it's like,
we got to stand for Desmond Ridder because they're part of the Big 12. But you're right.
I watched that Alabama game. It's a tough bridge for me to cross. All right, it's a time, everybody, to plug their all their work and all of its variety. John, you were up first, my friend.
Yeah, make sure you check out Locked On Sooners wherever you get your podcasts. It's free and available on all platforms as well as YouTube. Go subscribe to the channel over there. And you can read my work covering the Oklahoma Sooners over at the Sooners Wire. We'll have some draft reaction as well. Hopefully, they're not sleeping on Nick Bonito like they slept on Creed Humphrey, because that guy's going to be a game wrecker at the NFL level.
That's good stuff. Linda.
You can find Locked On Pokes on any of your podcast listening apps. I ordered a new laptop so I can finally move over to YouTube and actually connect my internet and make that happen. And then I'll be obnoxiously tweeting about the draft starting a couple days ago.
Starting now.
There you go. Jake.
Funny enough, I actually ordered a new laptop this week too. So me and Linda are doing the same thing. So there you go. You can find Locked On Cougars wherever you get your podcast. We are on YouTube having some fun there. We're about 3 weeks into that venture. Nice. And it's been really fun. Check out Locked On Cougars wherever you get your podcast. If you want all my takes on all things sports, follow me, Jacob C. Hatch, on Twitter.
You guys can find me on Twitter at @JoshNeighbors_. Enjoying the NBA playoffs right now, so I'll be tweeting some about that. A lot of Big 12 players in the NBA playoffs. You guys can find the show at LO Big 12 on Twitter. It's wherever you guys get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. All right, team. See you all